Today, we'll be taking a look at two seemingly inconspicuous objects with surprising connections to tragic incidents that occurred over 100 years ago. First is a small metal object that was once part of a boiler used to power a steam drill at a limestone quarry in Wrightsville. On Saturday, September 28, 1899, at about 11:45, a boiler of the Wrightsville Lime Company exploded. The boiler, which was meant to hold only 100 pounds of steam, was carrying over 140 pounds, causing it to erupt. A portion of the boiler house caught on fire, and the fire was windblown into the quarry over a large quantity of dynamite, which subsequently exploded. Had the accident occurred only 20 minutes later, about 10 to 12 men would have been sitting in the boiler house eating dinner, causing several fatalities. Unfortunately, not everyone escaped injury. During the explosion, parts of the boiler shot out at a distance of nearly 2 city blocks. Mrs. Leonard Barnes, wife of the company's engineer, had just arrived with dinner for her husband and was tragically struck in the head by a fragment of the boiler and killed instantly. Mrs. Barnes was the daughter of Mr. Henry Faust and had only been married for a little over a year. While looking through a box of objects related to local York firehouses, inside was a paper envelope containing a small metal ring. This ring was presented to the Historical Society by Jacob A. Ernie Jr., who had written a message on the envelope that reads, "This ring was taken from the lantern which Harry Saltzgiver held in his hand when killed in service as a member of the Vigilant Fire Code No. 1 at the York Carriage Works fire April 6, 1904, at 9:45 p.m. in York, PA. On April 6, 1905, the York Carriage Factory on North George Street caught on fire. During the incident, 3 brave volunteer firemen, Harry Saltzgiver, Horace Strine, and Louis Strubringer, were killed by falling walls while attempting to put out the flames. Harry Saltzgiver was assistant hose director and was in charge of Strubringer and Strine, along with 2 other men named Shaughnessy and Jones. An account of the events given by one of the survivors, Shaughnessy, was reported in the York Dispatch. When recollecting the actions of Saltzgiver, Shaughnessy said, "He was naturally very daring. At one place in the building before us, the fire seemed to be gaining headway, and Saltzgiver, leading the way with the lantern, ordered us to follow him inside the window. In front of us, about 30 feet, was Saltzgiver, and I could see him dimly as he stood holding the lantern." The men had remained in the building for about half an hour before the walls began to come down around them. Shaughnessy was knocked out of the building by falling bricks into the alley, and Jones was pulled out by another nearby fireman. The deaths of these 3 men were heavily mourned, and their sacrifices are still commemorated even 100 years later. Many museums house a number of objects made of a variety of different metals. There is a wide range of metal elements. However, most objects encountered in museums are made of aluminum, steel, nickel, tin, zinc, silver, iron, lead, and gold. While at times it may be difficult to discern which type of metal an object is made of, one thing that all metals share in common is that they are susceptible to corrosion. Corrosion is a compound usually formed from the reaction of a metal or alloy with a nonmetal, mainly water and/or oxygen. More noble metals such as platinum, silver, and gold are less prone to corrosion, while metals such as zinc, aluminum, and brass are more susceptible. Proper storing methods limit and prevent this type of damage. To store properly, metal objects need to mainly be protected from water and high relative humidity. To protect against water, preventative measures include keeping objects raised off of floors, covering oversized objects with a waterproof dust sheet, and avoiding areas where there is risk of water leaking. To protect against humidity, they should be kept in a dry, climate-controlled environment with 30% or lower relative humidity, and with air that is free of pollutants. Nitrile or clean cotton gloves should always be worn when handling metal objects in order to prevent the salts, oils, and moisture from fingerprints from damaging that object. Because these 2 objects are so small, storing them will be relatively easy. All that is needed is a small archival quality bag that the object can be sealed into that will protect them from water, dust, and other environmental factors. As you can see on these objects, when they were brought into the History Center, some corrosion had already occurred. but now with proper storage, they can be preserved for another 100 years.